Welcome back to day 2 of Sustainability Live, the home of sustainability. And with me now, I have Adam Muellerweiss. Adam, wonder if you could just introduce yourself and your company
Sure.
to our viewers.
Sure. My name is Adam Muellerweiss. I'm the Chief Sustainability Officer at Clarios. Most people may not know of Clarios, but we're in one of every 3 vehicles around the world. We don't make the batteries that make an EV go, but we make the batteries that are critical to the systems that allow it to operate, make sure it operates to peak efficiency, and keep people safe. It's the low voltage battery and the low voltage systems that are increasingly important for the electrification of mobility and autonomy, and that's what we do. And we're a unique company because the product we make comes almost exclusively from used batteries and the recycled materials of taking the old battery and turning it back into new ones.
And you just delivered a really compelling keynote called One Planet is Enough. What do you mean by that?
Well, in fact, one planet is all we have. In fact, as I was thinking about the keynote, somebody was joking with me about people look at me like I'm from a different planet sometimes. And in fact, I realized that I am. I'm from the planet where we only use one planet's worth of resources. But what we talked about today at the event was the fact that today we're running on borrowed time. We're running on borrowed resources. The Global Footprint Network estimates that here, if we all live like we do, or you do in the UK, we'd be using about 2.5 planets worth of resources, or the carrying capacity of the systems of our planet today. If we all live like Americans, it would be 5 planets. If you translate that to business terms, it would be over budget and being over leveraged. And that's certainly something we wouldn't do as a business, and certainly something we can't do as a planet.
So now I'm in my day job, I'm editor of Supply Chain magazine, and as we all know, the nature of supply chain, the phrase itself describes a process that is linear, a sort of take, make, waste kind of model. How prevalent is that still, that linear model?
Well, unfortunately, that is the predominant, by far, model of traditional ways of securing resources, manufacturing a product, distributing it, selling it, and then ultimately at the end of life, having that become a waste, which unfortunately most of that waste is going into a landfill, or maybe at best being partially recovered. So what we talked about today was the fact that a circle is not a straight line. It may seem trivial, but it's actually quite an important mind shift. So when your supply chain starts and ends at the same point, it's a very different paradigm. So for us, when we sell a battery to an automaker, it will go into a new car. But when that battery is replaced, we want to sell that battery and recover that battery from the original equipment vehicle and continue that process as that car is maintained. That provides a source of raw materials and resources from us that's local, that's resilient, that's low carbon, and that's accessible for us just around the corner and not around the world. But it is truly a very different paradigm from the linear model, which certainly I came from in the past, and most companies operate from today.
So you're moving to a sort of reduce, reuse, recycle model. How many companies, are finding that transition difficult, and how can companies like yours help them on that journey?
Well, I spoke of a couple other examples from our hometown of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So first and foremost, the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewage District, since 1926, was actually using human waste, and continues today, to create Milwaukee's organic nitrogen, or Muellerweiss, which is a fertilizer that they have been able to sell not only across the Midwest, but across the country. In doing so, in this case, a government entity was able to find a solution to a problem with an innovative product that is providing nutrients for, in my case, our family garden and lawns and others where you may have other alternatives. In this case, it is a circular opportunity. The shoes I'm wearing today, and I pointed out on stage, come from a manufacturer just north of Milwaukee that makes men's shoes, but also recrafts them. Their vice president of manufacturing has said it's the only product, or one of the only products, that you can buy, beat the heck out of, send back, and basically get a new one from. So these are examples, including the one I shared of our own company, Clarios, that are examples of circular thinking, circular business opportunities, innovation that was prompted well before any of the discussion around ESG and regulations and product stewardship. But it was because it was good for business. It was an innovative opportunity to solve problems and create value.
Now, also understand that you're involved in one or two sort of industry-wide organizations around the sort of battery industry. What if you could tell us a little bit about that, please?
Sure. So one of the things we've learned through our journey in the circular economy, which has been generations in the making, that we didn't do it alone. It took partnerships with our retail partners, with the automakers, with our logistics providers, with recycling companies, with consumers, to be able to have the system requirements, all of the things that were necessary to make the circular economy we have of our traditional products. So how can we take that learning and apply and advance and accelerate that for all batteries, particularly advanced battery chemistries like lithium ion? So today you can't take, like we do with our conventional product, an old battery and turn it right back into a new one. But the question we ask is, why not? And there was like-minded companies who got together, including some leading automakers, retailers, and other providers, who formed the Responsible Battery Coalition in the United States, which is focused on raising awareness of some of these opportunities and best practices, and building on that, working with universities and governments, particularly in North America. But it also supported and advanced an effort which allowed us to take that more broadly with Global Battery Alliance, which is a very substantial organization now that's trying to do the same around the world to share these kind of best practices and the opportunities with all stakeholders.
We were chatting earlier before the interview. You were saying that you haven't left the States since before the pandemic. But why Sustainability Live? I mean, delighted you chose it, but what was your thinking there?
Well, just looking at the agenda, looking at the kind of perspective that, frankly, I've been largely in my basement or my first floor, or from time to time in a relatively loosely populated office. Just being able to get here to the UK to see what's happening in a different world, to get that kind of different perspective, is something that's frankly important to me, and I think important to all of us, to kind of step out of our comfort zones. And this is a great place to kind of get reintroduced to the world after the pandemic.
Great. And if you were to sum up sustainability in one brief sentence, Adam, what would you say?
Well, I would maybe use this conference name and turn it a different way. So it's called Sustainability Live, but let's call it Sustainability Live. So in order for us to live on this planet with the limited resources that we have, that we are stewards of, we have to do it a different way. We have to ask different questions. Why can't we live within the resources and the carrying capacity of the planet we have? Why can't we reuse, recycle, remanufacture, repurpose, whatever opportunity there is to get more out of every investment we have in resources and carbon investments and energy investments for what we make and do? And so that was the challenge ultimately that I gave the audience in the keynote, is to ask those questions. And it's about, how are we going to live tomorrow? We talk about the 3 Ps being people, planet, profit. That's a little passé. It's really about people, people, and people.
Sure.
And how are we going to live with the resources and the constraints that we have, and do it in a way that's fair, just, equitable, and creates opportunity for all.
Adam Muellerweiss, thank you very much.
Thank you.